Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Ari Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
Be'ez Hashem, we're back here in Perek Vav, Chelik Daled, Daf Kuf Tzadi Ches. We're on the very bottom of the page. We were just talking about how Zachor and Shamor represent the two parts of Shabbos, the mitzvah Saseh of Shabbos and the mitzvah Lo Saseh of Shabbos. Zachor is to remember Shabbos, do things that remind you of Shabbos, like Kiddush. And Shamor is protecting from Shabbos, protecting from doing the wrong thing, which is the lavin melachos and everything related to that. Well, we said, and that's what we left off with, that in general, mitzvahs lo saseh are there so that we don't ruin ourselves. We keep ourselves pure, but they aren't active. They aren't bringing more kedushah into us. They're preventing us from going into tumah, but they're not bringing more kedushah. So, but here, the Shmir Shabbos is actually bringing more kedushah. Like we explained last week, and like we've explained other times in the past. So we're here on the bottom of Daf Kuf Tzadi Ches. Lavin shel Shabbos me lavin shel kol Torah. Let's see the differences between the Lav of Shabbos and the lavin of kol Torah. The kol Torah, halavim masurin kegon mitzicho gezela mibnei shemishchitzam mashchitim et anefesh. For example, stealing or murder are aveiras that destroy a person's soul. Doing these acts are destructive acts, and they destroy ourselves. Right? Very interesting. I'll just bring an interesting nafkamina of that. Right? Let's take murder, for example. Murder is a terrible aveira. It's one of the big three aveiras that even a person has to die in order not to commit murder. So that's what a person has to do. It's really remarkable. There's a din in the Gemara called the din roide. It comes from a pasuk in Parshas Kitetse. The din roide is that if you see person A running after person B to, there are a number of examples, but let's just say with murder. Let's keep with that example. Person A is running after person B to kill him. The din is that if you need to stop, you should stop person A at all costs. Now, if you're a sharpshooter and you can shoot him in his pinky toe and that'll stop him, that's what you should do. If you're such an expert, you do one karate chop and he'll knock him out, and the police will be able to arrest him. Great, that's what you should do. But let's say you're not so good like that. But you can shoot him, but it will kill him. Are you allowed to kill person A in order to prevent him from killing person B? So the answer is yes. Yes. In fact, that's what you should do. The Mefarshim explain there are two potential reasons. Reb Chaim Brisker writes this in the stencils. There are two potential reasons. One is to save B's life, to save the life of the person who's being run after. That's why. It's kind of ironic. You're killing one in order to save one, whereas you would just let him kill him, it would be the same thing. Right? So they talk about this. Why exactly is that true? I'm not going to go into the whole sugya right now. But there's another reason why they bring. The other reason is not to save the other person's life, but in order to prevent the murderer from committing murder. In order to prevent the aveira of murder, we're allowed to kill A. Not only you're allowed, but you're supposed to kill A to prevent him from doing an aveira. Kind of ironic, right? The Torah is giving you a mitzvah. It's telling you, person A is trying to kill person B. He's going to do a terrible aveira. We are allowed to prevent him. Not allowed. We have to prevent him from doing that aveira. And the Torah sanctions murdering him in order to prevent him from doing the aveira. But then it's not murder. Since if the Torah is telling you to do something, then it's not murder anymore. Now think about it for a second. I can understand the first way to save the person who's being run after, to save his life. I can understand that. But what about the other opinion? Well, we have to understand something. We don't understand how terrible an aveira is. We have no idea how terrible an aveira is. If you want a person understood how terrible an aveira is, it wouldn't be a kasha over here, especially an aveira like that. There wouldn't be a kasha at all. Not at all. Which is why, certainly, to prevent him from doing such a terrible aveira like that, he's destroying his soul. That's what he's doing. He's destroying his soul. And that's why Chazal teach us that if a person murders somebody, it's not as bad as somebody causes somebody else to sin. Because if he murders him in this world. But if he causes him to sin, he kills him in the next world. He hits him much deeper than just his body. He hits him in his soul. Now, obviously, I don't sanction either one. Right? Nobody should be doing this or that. But we have to realize that doing an aveira is so terrible. Ad kedei kach, that the Gemara says there's a din. The din is if a goy puts a gun to a Jew's head and says, if you don't murder that other Jew, I'm going to kill you. The din is you have to give up your life. But if a goy puts a gun to a Jew's head and he says, I'm going to kill you unless you eat this pork, what do? Pass the ketchup. You eat the pork. That's the din. Why? If an aveira is so terrible and an aveira is so bad, you're hitting in the soul, well, I should give up my life for that. Not only that, it makes more sense. Listen, this guy's putting a gun to my head, but God told me not to eat the pork. Which one's more important? It's one thing to give up my life. Okay, you know what? God is the one who gave me my life. He's the one who gave me my life. So I'm only here because he gave me life in the first place. So if he wants, he can take my life away. I'm not going to rebel against him. Moirid b'malchus. Do any aveiras. Moirid b'malchus. Even if it means the cost of my life. How could I do any aveira? Any aveira is moirid b'malchus. Especially if the person does it b'mezid, on purpose. Moirid b'malchus. Therefore, really for every aveira, you should be ready to give up your life. So why does the Torah say, no, you're supposed to do the aveira? And the answer is because there's a pasuk that tells you to. The pasuk says, I believe it's in Parshas Achrei Mois, v'chai bahem, which the Gemara learns from there, v'chai bahem v'lo sheyamut bahem. You should live with the Torah and not that you should die by the Torah. Which means if you're in a place of sakanas nefashos and you're going to die, and the only way to save yourself is to do an aveira, so you're supposed to do the aveira. That's why you have Hatzalah members being Lav of Shabbos to save other people's lives. Except for those big three aveiras. Those big three you can't do. Murder, Gila Arayis, and Avodah Zarah. Those three things, and the Gemara learns that from Sukkah. But really, it's v'chai b'hem. It's only because Hashem himself said, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die, do the aveira. It's because Hashem himself told us that. But really, I'm destroying my soul like that. I'm destroying my soul by doing this aveira. My soul is eternal. My soul is much longer than 120 years on this planet. Much bigger than that. My soul is for all eternity. It's a little bit longer than 120 years. Why would I want to do anything that's going to hurt my soul? So on that, Hashem says, I care about your body. I don't want you to die. Do the aveira. Only because Hashem said, okay, Hashem, is that what you said? Then that's what I'm going to do. That's it. So that's what he's saying. When a person does an aveira, it's mashchisim, it's a nefesh. It destroys a person's soul. That's what a general aveira does. Okagon achilus nevelus, back inside. Okagon achilus nevelus shemitamtemet alev is also eating something that's not kosher, has a very, very destructive nature, quality about it, that it destroys a person's soul. Eating machalos asuras, eating anything that's not kosher, is a destruction not only of your soul but of your body. Gemara tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not give special protection for tzaddikim to prevent them from doing aveiros. If a tzaddik falls into an aveira, he falls into an aveira, with one exception. A tzaddik has extra protection when it comes to eating things that are not kosher. He has extra protection, and the Gemara brings a proof for it, and it brings stories about it. Why? What's different about eating something that's not kosher versus doing any other aveira, right? Person who cuts their payas too short. A person who puts a gash in their body or in their forehead over mourning. These are also big aveiras. So why is eating so much worse? Eating is so much worse is because when a person eats, the food actually becomes part of your body. The food that you eat, the nutrition that's in the food actually becomes who you are. It becomes your physical makeup. And if something not kosher becomes part of your physical makeup, it dulls your spirituality. That's what Chazal call timtum halev. It makes you not sensitive anymore to ruchnius. And by being not sensitive, it lowers a person. The physical aspect of our bodies will lower a person. That's what he means, that it's so destructive. I'll just tell you a story that I heard from my Rebbe. He must have told this story a number of times. When he was a Rebbe, I don't remember, it was Kita Zayin, Kita Chet, but he was a Rebbe in grade school. And he noticed there was a certain boy who at the very beginning of the year started off very, very strong in all aspects. And as the year went on, he started getting weaker and weaker, weaker in learning and weaker in davening, and he started getting weaker. And it was like a mystery. What was the problem? What was going on over here? And he asked the boy, let me ask you, have you been taking snacks, eating snacks from your friends here in the class? So he said, is Rebbe a Navi? How did you know that? So he said, because I know your family. And I know your family has a very, very high level of kashrus. And I know not all the boys in the class have such a high level of kashrus. So it could very well be the reason why you're falling, why you're not doing as well at the beginning of the year is because you started eating things that even though they might be kosher, but they're not on your level of kashrus. And because of that, your body and your soul reacts to that. It's very sensitive. And that's why you haven't been doing as well. So even if something is not necessarily not kosher, right? There's still hidurim. There's still levels, right? It isn't as black and white as either it's kosher or it's not kosher. It's not true. There are many, many, many different levels of kashrus. And therefore, a person who is more sensitive will react more when their level of kashrus drops. And the truth of the matter is, it goes in reverse also. A person who starts accepting a higher level of kashrus very, very well could experience more ruchnius. Did I eat anything not kosher before? No. But it's still, there are madregas. Anyway, coming back over here. Lav of Shabbos, when it comes to Shabbos, is he going to just destroying himself, his body, his soul for plowing or for planting? Is there anything intrinsically wrong with planting or plowing?
Can't be, because on Sunday it's okay.
Right?
It's okay.
Right. What's wrong? But then again, sometimes, let's say, eating on Yom Kippur. Is something wrong with eating? No. Is the food kosher? No. I mean, yes, the food is kosher, right? Food is kosher. I hope it's kosher, right? But something about the day, eating it on the day. So maybe we'll see that. Maybe that's the word over here. But emes isur asiyas malach b'Shabbos inyan acher. It's a totally different thing. When we're talking about doing malacha on Shabbos, it's something else. V'hu la'asir et ha'mechita ha'mastira et yichud Hashem. This is like we discussed way back in the beginning of this sefer. It's to remove all the noise, all the things that are out there, so we can see what we can see with clarity. Right? I remember when my parents have an apartment on a very high floor in Yerushalayim, and with a very nice view. At one point, and I've been there so many times. Well, at one point, my wife's like, "Wow, I never noticed that before. You can see mountains out in the distance." And the reason why was because the day was so clear. You actually were able to see much more than you would have on what we would call a regular day. So that's what it is. There's like a fog. There's a mist. You can't even tell that it's there, but it's blocking something. So here, on a much, much clearer day, we're able to see mountains out there. On a regular day, you wouldn't be able to make it out. You wouldn't be able to see it. So that's what's happening over here. Is it not clear? It is. But when we really want to purify it and to see something that we wouldn't be able to see, you got to clear everything away. Mashal ala hebdel bein lavin shall call a Torah. Haim kemi sheminake et beiso milichlus. So the mashal the difference between the different types of mitzvahs lo saseh is that by most mitzvahs lo saseh, it can be compared to like cleaning up the house. There's dirt, there's junk. Your kid came back from Gan and he has like sand in his shoes. You didn't know that. And he dumps his shoes out and all of a sudden there's like a whole sandbox on the floor. Right? There's a lot of dirt. You got to clean the floor. You got to do a good sponge on. Aval isa melacha-Shabbos hu kichalom bebayit shedarchu nichnas avir tzach umichya. The melachas on Shabbos are not cleaning the lichluch, the dirt on the floor. It's more like the window in the house. Through that window comes in light and air. Valachalon toli tzmuna vafilu marhivas ayin biyofya. There's a picture on the window. That picture could be beautiful. It could be a beautiful picture. Hatzmuna azu ena davik mazik umashchis. It doesn't ruin the window. It doesn't destroy the window. Like stained glass. Wow, why do people have stained glass in the first place? Obviously, it's because they think that it's pretty, it's beautiful, it's a nice decoration. Does that ruin the window? Aval ma'keves hi es avir hachaim. It might be very beautiful, but it takes away from the light. It takes away from the air. That's why doing a melacha on Shabbos is so chamor. Because if you have this window, and the window is what's giving you light, and it's what's giving you air, if you close that window up because you want to build a beautiful stained glass mural, beautiful, gigantic, it's wow, it takes your breath away, it's so beautiful. But the problem is, if you close up that window now, there's going to be no air. You're not stabbing yourself by doing this. You're not destroying your soul. Which is the idea of other mitzvahs lo saseh. Even if you cover that window with the most beautiful mural, once you close up the source of your breath, your source of air, well, where's the air going to come from now? Where are you going to live from? How are you going to live? And when it comes to destroying ourselves, destroying ourselves is doing it to like a knife. Person gets stabbed. Well, where can you get stabbed? You can get stabbed in a lot of places. You can get stabbed in the pinky toe. You can get stabbed in the ear. You can get stabbed. Are those places going to be painful? Yes, they'll be painful. Will a person survive? Quite possibly. They could survive from that. But when it comes to Chilul Shabbos, but that Chilul Shabbos hits on the source of life itself. That's going to lead to death. Our life comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom, from our connection to Hashem. If we're not connected to Hashem, then we're not going to have life. So therefore, that's what Chilul Shabbos does. I think earlier in the Sefer, he compared it to the brain. Right? If a person has surgery and the surgeon messes up, so let's say they were coming to, fix his finger, and the surgeon messes up, so his finger is going to be crooked. But if the surgeon messes up in a brain surgery, oy vey, that can kill the patient, totally. Even the littlest bit could be dead. When it's so sensitive, the smallest thing can do it. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is a makor habracha. It's a makor hachaim. It's through which that we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't have that, we won't have life. V'nei, haluchos kulula behem kol haTorah, asim v'lavin. The luchos abris are made up of mitzvah saseh, mitzvah lo saseh. V'lachein haluchos b'yesoidim chamisha dibros. Mitzvah saseh, v'chamisha dibros, mitzvah lo saseh. There are 5 mitzvahs saseh and 5 mitzvahs lo saseh, but it's not true. It's not true. Because if you look, the last 5 are mitzvahs lo saseh, it's true. But the first 5 aren't all mitzvahs aseh. The first one is, the fourth one is, and the fifth one is. But the second and third aren't. Right? The first one is Anoichi Hashem. The fourth one is Shabbos. And the fifth one is Kibbut Avein. Right? I got that right. Lamaise. But what's the second and the third?
Lo yelecha.
Lo yelecha, avodah zara. And what was the third one? Lo sisa, shkoach. So there are mitzvahs lo saseh. What does he mean over here? Hine bish lama chamisha dibrot ha'achronis hem kula lavin. The last five are lavin. Aval chamisha rishonos lechoira yesh lamen asin anoichi zachor bekavod veyesh lavin lo yeh lo sisa. Two mitzvahs lo saseh also in the first five. How are you calling them aseh? V'lama anu oimrim shedibros harishonos kulam nikras mitzvah. Why do we say the first five are aseh and the last five are lo saseh? If there are lo saseh also in the first five. Amnam be'emes dibros harishonos heim biyasodim asin. The yesod of the first five are aseh. How to bring more kedushah into yourself. The last five are how to keep away from the things that are going to destroy us. The first five are about how do we know Hashem? How do we connect to Hashem? We can't fathom what is Hashem. It's impossible for a human being to fathom what is Hashem. Only through the Torah do we have the possibilities even to connect somewhat. We can't, certainly there's nothing physical that we can, even though the Torah sometimes gives physical properties to Hashem, but that's only so that we could understand something. But really, in no way is that is Hashem limited to those examples. The way we understand is through the negative. There is no other strength like his strength. There is no wisdom that's greater than his wisdom. Which means we can't say his wisdom, he's got an IQ of 20 million, right? Well, that would be limiting. Okay, so 20 billion, that would also be limiting. 20 quadrillion, 20 with like 8,000 zeros afterwards. Only 8,000 zeros afterwards? Okay, it's with like a trillion zeros afterwards. It's got like, it's a trillion with a trillion zeros after it. There's no end. So only way, we can't give a positive hagdara. We have to do a negative. Because we can't put into words, we can't say what the positive is. We can only say it that there's nothing comparable to him. Ein kelokenu, ein kadonenu, mi kelokenu. We can't. There's no way to nail down what Hashem is. Even the mitzvahs that we're commanded to do with regards to kavod Hashem are through the negative. Could go lo yeh. Don't take avodah zara. Lo sisa. She'i efshar litzavos be'emes eich hi aderech lechaved shemom. She'ein lechvoido soyif v'tachlis. Because we don't have the ability to measure Hashem's greatness. Ela efsharach litzavos osanu eich lo lechalel shemo. Only telling us how, don't mess this up. That's it. Just don't mess it up. But the tachlis is to bring more kavod through our love, through our fear, to doing the mitzvahs that will bring us closer, bring more kedushah into us, and we'll be closer to Hashem. That's why we can understand why the first five are mitzvahs aseh, and the last five are mitzvahs lo saseh, because the last five are stay away from things that will destroy you, and the first five of how can we appreciate the kavod of Hashem better. Okay, I know it's getting a little bit late, but there's so little left. I just want to finish the parak. Amnam b'Shabbos gam Zachor yesoid aseh v'gam Shamor yesoid alav shneim shaychim letzad ha'asin. When we say Zachor, which is do something positive to remember Hashem on Shabbos. Remember Shabbos. Bruchat Hashem mekadesh haShabbos. Right? We say it in Shemona Esrei. We say it in Kiddush. We remember Vayechulu Hashamayim ba'aretz v'chol tzva'am. We're doing an asay, but it's also the los asay that helps us see Hashem. Shagam Shamor hu biyamin haluchos. Even the lashon of Shamor is also on the right side, also on the asay side. Shashmir shashabas eno kamo lo tirtach shalo yishchit anefesh. Guarding Shabbos is not the same thing as murder. It's the flip side of the mitzvah of Zachor. Shal yidei hashomer yire et shal yidei hashamor yire et hazachor. Through the negative, we will bring out more positive. Through holding back from doing other things, that's how we can bring more of Hashem into our day and into our lives. K'dichtiv v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbos la'sois haShabbos. When we're shomer Shabbos, that's how we actively make the Shabbos. And now to conclude, Chelek Dalid, L'kemoshe Yidbar she'ikar mahus haShabbos hi hashvita. Like we have explained many times, the main thrust behind Shabbos is to rest. Hainu batlo kol mitzias ha'olam. That means we're stopping everything else there is in the world. Umemela niskav Hashem levado. If everything else stops in the world, it's all quiet. What's there left? Hashem. V'nizkav Hashem levado. It's only Hashem. V'nimsa Hashamor meviet hazachor. That's how the Shamor, that's how stopping everything else will actually allow us to see what Shabbos is all about bringing Hashem, the Shechina, into our lives and into our homes. That's what it means that they were said together, Shamor of Zachor, in one statement. V'hem zug v'kefel. They are one. They're one couple. They are the two sides of the same coin. Shnei noisim be'inyan echad v'hem hainu hach. They are the exact same thing. Shkoyach, everybody, finishing Chelek Dalid. Be'ez Hashem, we will start the Perek Siyum and our descent to the end of, not descent, ascent to the end of the Sefer. Be'ez Hashem next week. Shkoyach.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Eli Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.